Hello, I'm Andrew Pritchard. Thank you for watching today's Corn Belt Regional Forecast, brought to you by Nutrien Ag Solutions. As we look at the storylines for the Corn Belt for the next 5 days or so, we got a warm up for most, especially across the Central Plains, where we'll be touching the 80s and 90s by the time we get to the end of the week. But that warmth does spread into the Eastern Corn Belt, where we are really trying to dry that soil down. Unfortunately, that's also where we've got some nuisance showers and storms tracking through the area, which we'll talk about here in just a moment over the next 24 to 48 hours. After that, the bigger storyline, I would argue, is a volatile pattern arriving late week, carrying into the weekend and beyond, especially again from the Central Plains into parts of the mid-Mississippi Valley, where we're talking about the potential for repeated rounds of severe thunderstorms and the potential for some heavy rain. We'll check in with the satellite on Tuesday morning, and it's quiet across the entire Corn Belt, except for this little area here across the state of Iowa, where we've got some cloud cover and some rain falling under that. And this little system will continue to track off to the southeast, and that's what's going to bring some nuisance showers and storms to this region here, where we really are trying to dry out and unfortunately just cannot buy a steady 24 to 48 hours without some form of precipitation tracking through the area. We'll look underneath those clouds at the rain that is currently falling, even some embedded thunderstorms in there right around central Iowa. And again, while this particular complex of storms may wane as we head into the midday or afternoon hours, we would certainly expect things to flare back up late this evening into the overnight, with showers and storms tracking across parts of eastern Missouri into western and central Illinois. We can take a look at that with the high-resolution NAM model, the forecast here as we go through the day Tuesday. Here you see the system tracking through, flaring back up with showers and storms possible across this area Tuesday into the overnight, and then as we head towards midweek, maybe chances for some isolated showers and storms across the upper Midwest and the northern plains before a better chance of thunderstorms develops here as we get into the day on Thursday. So let's go ahead and we'll just kind of click through this over time so you can get a better look at when you can expect precipitation in the area. As we head through Tuesday morning, we watch that system tracking out of Iowa. Again, look, you see it kind of wanes as we head into Tuesday afternoon. We get into the evening and the overnight. And we see things certainly flare back up across this area here. So eastern Missouri into western and central Illinois may be seeing some showers and maybe a rumble of thunder Tuesday evening into the overnight and early Wednesday morning before this gets off to the south, clearing the mid-south by midday on Tuesday. Quiet for much of the day on Wednesday then, quiet into Wednesday overnight, but then as we get into the day on Thursday, we're going to have a front draped kind of across this area, a stationary a boundary there with a couple upper level of disturbances tracking along that. And we will see, because of that, the chance for some scattered thunderstorms, maybe a round or two of those getting into Thursday afternoon, Thursday overnight into Friday. So unfortunately, again, not dry for everyone, although it's drier than it has been over the last several weeks. Here again is the high-resolution NAM model precipitation total forecast that gets us all the way into Thursday evening. And there you see it, spotty, scattered in nature, not completely dry, although some will be completely dry, but the trouble spot going to be right here where this system tracks through the area Tuesday into early Wednesday, bringing those showers and storms along the Mississippi River from central Iowa into eastern Missouri and western and central Illinois. But then again, we see the impacts here of the chance of just some spotty showers and storms across the northern plains into the upper Midwest, starting Thursday, getting into the day on Friday, again with the potential for those to continue on tracking into parts of Illinois as well. So while it's mostly dry for folks, I would say that the trouble spot's going to be here Tuesday, and then as we get into Thursday, tracking kind of in this area, looking for scattered showers and storms. Here's a look at the last 72 hours of precipitation, again just highlighting why this is so frustrating. You know, what was supposed to be a mostly dry weekend ended up producing heavier than expected rainfall in a corridor here from the Ohio River, just north of that, across Illinois, Indiana, and Ohio. So it has not been dry here for more than 24 to 48 hours, and we're already talking about, again, bringing some precipitation into this area. So just a very frustrating go of it. You know, there's good news in the days to come as we warm up. It does look like we'll be, dry Wednesday. Some are going to see thunderstorms, on Thursday and then Friday, but hopefully getting some dry weather again on Saturday. So really watching this area here across Illinois, Indiana, and Ohio, where we really are getting far, far behind on planting progress compared to the last 5 years. And so, my fingers are crossed that we can stay as dry as possible and really tap into this warm-up later on in the week. The The problem, though, we take a look at the jet stream here. We'll look at the European model's forecast as we head into the end of the week, and we see this ridge of high pressure slide into the central United States, including the Corn Belt. And when we see a ridge like that in the jet stream, this inverted U shape, that's a warmer pattern and a drier pattern as we allow warmth to build up under that ridge. Storm systems are deflected off to the north and around that, and that's why, again, maybe I should draw this ridge perhaps a little bit lower like this, and that's where, again, atop that ridge, we see the chance for some scattered storms getting into the day Thursday and Friday, but mostly warm and mostly dry across the Corn Belt with a pattern like this. But you can already see what's looming off to the west as we jump ahead. Where does this pattern go? Well, we bring a major trough into the western U.S. that kind of just rebuilds over and over, beginning by the time we get to Friday. I'm going to go ahead and pause this at the end of the loop here. Friday, we can draw that trough in. Here we see it right there. And again, we know Eric and I have done kind of a Meteorology 101 lesson here on a couple of our recent forecast videos. And ahead of that trough, that's where we expect stormy and active weather with frequent opportunities for precipitation. In a pattern like this, the end of May, where we are at our climatological peak for severe weather across Tornado Alley in the Central Plains, this is a volatile pattern that shows the potential for repeated rounds of severe weather, some possibly significant severe weather. So really a lot that we need to be paying attention to once we get to the backside of this week and into the weekend and beyond as we look into next week. And the problem here is this building Pacific jet stream that Eric and I have been kind of talking about. And here you see it as we start here Tuesday evening with a very powerful upper-level jet coming in from the Pacific Ocean. And then watch what happens as we take this into the end of the week, into the weekend and beyond. That jet stream comes screaming into the central United States, again with that trough that just kind of rebuilds on itself, but powerful upper-level jet stream winds blasting in from the Pacific Ocean into the Central Plains, with deep Gulf moisture being fed in from the south, and that just again sets up a volatile pattern across a big part of the southern plains, the central plains, and then into the central and the eastern Corn Belt, where we'll be talking about the repeated chances for severe weather and heavy rounds of precipitation. I've been working on developing an index here to kind of help us highlight severe weather environments that are conducive to severe weather. And when we see readings here getting into the 7, 8, and 9 levels here, that just screams an environment that's plenty conducive to severe weather. As we look across the Central Plains, this is on Friday, and then again on Saturday. This continues Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday into next week. Again, just across this area from the Southern Plains out of the Corn Belt here, but let me change my color, make it a little bit more visible. We'll go ahead and do black. But this area here is where I'm most concerned as we talk about severe weather for the next week or so. By the time we get to Friday of this week, through the weekend, and into early next week, not only the chance for heavy rain, but chances for some significant severe weather as well. We'll take a look at that here, the precipitation type forecast from the European model, and there we see it. I'm going to go ahead and jump through time on this one. We'll go ahead and jump back as we go through the middle part of the week. This is where we've got that ridge in the jet stream across the central United States, again with most of the precipitation tracking off to the north from the northern plains into the upper Midwest. But then it's as we get into the central part of the the end of the week across the central U.S., where we start developing areas of low pressure across the central plains. Again, we'll have a warm front extending into the central and eastern Corn Belt with the dry line, which is a term that they're familiar with in the Central Plains and Tornado Alley, where we expect again each afternoon and evening the development of thunderstorms producing severe weather, large hail, damaging winds, and tornadoes. And this just seems like a pattern that could reload here. You look at, we'll go ahead and take this all the way back, and I can leave the drawing there because it's the same thing every day. We get Friday, thunderstorms developing there. Saturday, the same story. We get into Sunday, maybe a little bit further east across the Corn Belt, but then Monday, same thing. Tuesday, same thing. And then, obviously we lose some model consistency as we get beyond here. We're looking 7 to 8 days into the future, but I want to just continue to advertise this pattern because it's one that's volatile and could be problematic for many of us across the Corn Belt. As we talk about the northern plains, we're talking about severe weather across this area and then perhaps extending into the central and eastern Corn Belt, but across the Dakotas into Minnesota, where maybe some severe weather certainly, but perhaps talking about just more kind of a cold rain up in that area, which is problematic as well with South Dakota, North Dakota, you're falling well behind average with corn and soybean planting as well. And so no good news in parts of the northern plains as well, where it just remains quite active with frequent opportunities for precipitation. So I wish I had better news. Unfortunately, I have to continue to just advertise bad news for you guys, but a pattern that maybe gives some people some relief here as we go through the week here through Friday. But by the time we get to Friday, through the weekend and into next week, it just looks like a really problematic pattern for a large majority of the Corn Belt. Straight from the European model, here is the total precipitation forecast. This gets us through Tuesday of next week, and we can see, the major trouble spot that we talk about, the central plains, getting into the northern plains, where we see the dry line set up here, the frequent development of areas of low pressure, and again, the development of thunderstorms, perhaps producing severe weather. The European model does not want to extend the heavy precipitation quite as far to the east as the GFS. If we look at the American GFS model, that shows trouble for parts of Illinois and Indiana, where again, we are way behind on planting progress. If we flip back to the European model, a little more friendly, and that's because it wants to take these storm systems and kind of lift them off to the north and have it just regenerate in the same area across this part of the central United States, the central and the northern Corn Belt. But if you flip over to the GFS, it wants to be a little bit more progressive, taking these storm systems and tracking them eastward, bringing the chance for thunderstorms to the central and the eastern Corn Belt, where we absolutely do not need it. The Week 2 precipitation anomalies from the GFS ensemble model is somewhat good news for the central and eastern Corn Belt, especially into the Mid-South. We can kind of draw a line here where if you look off to the north here, the green shading, this is where we're dealing with another week of advertised higher than normal precipitation. So this would be May 21st through May 28th, where the jet stream, we still see that trough kind of pointing into the northern plains now. And again, that would lead to the development of thunderstorms across this area with a ridge of high pressure across the southeast, keeping things kind of dry, again, from maybe central Illinois into Indiana and Ohio off to the south there. But again, I don't see it being completely dry, just maybe a little bit drier than average. So hopefully, we can buy, hopefully we can get what the GFS is advertising, which is, a quieter pattern in this area and a warmer pattern, and get this thing to, get the soil to dry out and get things rolling with planting progress. We look at the temperature anomalies days 6 through 10, so looking at May 20th through May 25th, and it does advertise that warmer pattern here across the central and eastern Corn Belt, which again, hopefully with some drier weather can get things rolling. But just all sorts of trouble when we look at the northern plains. When we're looking at a window here to get warmer and drier weather, I just don't see it. We'll get a couple days of that as we talk about midweek here. But as this pattern shifts Friday into the weekend and beyond, it's going to be plenty of trouble for folks in the northern plains, even though maybe the severe weather is confined a little bit further south. The precipitation and the cooler temperature is just going to be problematic across the Dakotas. So unfortunately, just bad news across the board, but maybe the best news to be found across the eastern Corn Belt, Illinois, Indiana, and Ohio, where hopefully, at least in bits and pieces, we can get planting rolling over the next week or two. We'll finish with the next 5 days of high temperatures here. Tuesday, high temperatures in the mid to upper 80s across the central plains, a little bit cooler. If you look at Illinois and Indiana, or Iowa and Illinois, that's where we have some light precipitation falling across this area. It's a little bit cooler. As we get into midweek, we really see that warm up Wednesday. And then Thursday, look at that 90s now across the central plains where we are baking under high pressure there. You remember that ridge of high pressure, bringing that warmth in from the south, keeping the active weather, the rain chances off to the north. But then as we get into Friday and Saturday, those cooler temperatures, that's because we're developing thunderstorms across this region. And that begins the active pattern, certainly across this area, and then perhaps expanding off into the east. As always, Eric Snodgrass will have an in-depth look at the evolution of the next 1 to 2 weeks in our Thursday morning Ag Forecast video. And I'll have your next Corn Belt regional update for you right here midday on Friday. Have a great day.